to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perform roll call at this time. Councilor Benson?
Present.
Councilor Peterson?
Present.
Councilor DeWall?
Present.
Mayor Ward's also in attendance. Please let the minutes reflect Councilor Johnson is on an excused absence. Administrator Rich, Attorney Henka, and Administrative Assistant Mizuko, along with Attorney Gunnar Johnson, Chief Helquist, and Chief Gatus. Looking for a motion to approve the pre-agenda meeting minutes from April 7th, 2025. Councilor Peterson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the City Council meeting minutes from April 7th, 2025. I'll make that motion if there's a second.
Second for discussion, or just a correction.
Second by Councilor Peterson for discussion.
6E, is it Councilor Peterson and Councilor Johnson with Johnson crossed out? Isn't that supposed to be Peterson crossed out?
Nope, that was a correction that we made to the previous minutes, I believe, where this was for the negotiation committee. So they had, originally we had appointed you and Councilor DeWall to it, but the minutes reflected Councilor Johnson.
Oh,
So
okay.
she was just showing that she fixed that.
Okay.
And then I did talk to Megan regarding underneath comments and suggestions from the citizens. It says motion second pass Johnson Ward. That should read Peterson Ward as well, so that will be corrected. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Before making that motion, I'd like to add 6D, Market Rate Study Team, to the agenda. And with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Councilor DeWall made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6A, Proctor Midway EMT contract. Attorney Johnson is present on behalf of Midway Township. So in your packet, you see the first responder service contract with Midway Township. That was approved by council a month ago maybe. Midway Township had some questions and Attorney Johnson is here to discuss those. So the floor is yours, Attorney.
Thank you, councilors, mayor. I appreciate being here. It's a lovely night in Proctor, and it's good to be here. I'm also at the Hermantown City Council meeting right now, so I'm trying to juggle a few things. I've met with your city administrator, with the police chief, and with the fire chief, and talked about this matter. I've met with the town of Midway, and Midway's concerns were basically twofold. One was just getting a little bit more definition of what the police are doing under this contract. And second is to define a little bit the liability issues that would go along with this agreement. And so I made a red line and sent that back to the city. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but there's a few, I would call them pretty minor changes, but I'm happy to discuss them. The first one was a footnote under Section 1.2 of the service conditions, which just said that the Proctor Police will not be assuming any additional law enforcement duties in Midway and will only respond to Midway Township for first responder services. This kind of came out of some concerns of the Sheriff's Department about dispatch and some concerns of Midway Township. I tried to mirror the language that was in the chief's, he did a memo to officers from February of 2025, and I tried to mirror that just so the contract kind of went along with that memo. And then, so that was one item, and then the rest of the items were basically liability related. Let's see, 2D was about insurance. I assume Proctor has this insurance. This is the standard stuff for a city. neither side is going to waive the statutory limits, which neither side wants to waive. Defines a little bit of the role of Proctor and Midway as independent contractors. It's not some sort of joint undertaking, which frankly is good for both parties, I believe. And so that's kind of the extent of the changes that were being proposed. I want to thank the City of Proctor has been very patient and thoughtful in working through these issues. I've represented many different townships and cities and states and whatever, and shared services are certainly something that's coming in the future. And this shared service that we're talking about is certainly a need for Midway Township. Appreciate the fire department being willing and the police department being willing to extend this and work with Midway Township to make sure that the residents of Midway Township have access to this EMT services. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Council, have any questions? I can start if you don't mind. Regarding that first change under 1.2 service conditions, I just feel that sending our officers to a medical scene that could potentially, possibly turn into something more than a medical scene is going to handcuff them and put them in a bad situation. The way we operate in the City of Proctor is our first responders are police and fire, and I don't think it's feasible for the city to change its way of doing business to provide a service that Midway Township has came forward to ask us to provide. You bring up good points on liability. I'm not sure that the $10,250 is high enough now that we talk about liability, just due to the fact that we should probably check with our insurance provider to make sure that our liability is going to be covered at those dollar amounts. I could potentially see that cost going up a little bit now that the liability has been addressed. I guess when council addressed this a month ago, I didn't think of the liability. Shame on me for that, but you raised a good point on that. So I do think Administrator Rich should go back to the league and ask what our potential liability could be on a contract like this in case the price does need to increase a little bit. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, Midway came to Proctor, they asked for a service. We want to be good neighbors. We want to provide that service to the Midway residents. And we're willing to do so, but I don't think we should change the way we operate to make that sacrifice. You know, again, I think Midway's intention is to provide good services to their residents, and I would agree and hope that is what they're looking for. Unfortunately, the services that they requested from us require PD and FD to respond to medical calls, and by limiting our PD to go to these calls, to have no authority on something they've been sworn to do, really limits them and handcuffs them and could potentially put them in a bad situation. My 2 cents. Council have any other input on that?
I'll just add a couple.
Councilor DeWall?
Can I just respond to the mayor?
Sure.
First? I'm sorry. I just wanted to respond on.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't. The liability is the easy one to start with first. You guys have this insurance in place already. You can certainly, you should speak with, probably with the League of Minnesota Cities, and this is not an unusual circumstance. You have insurance for it, but I think that's a good idea to check with the league. I don't think, as a city attorney, I don't think any of these changes in any way hinder Proctor. I think it's a nice, it just helps to kind of round out the agreement a little bit between the parties on the liability side. On the police, the footnote that you pointed out. Again, the chief's memo says we are not taking over law enforcement duties in the township. And that's my understanding, you're not taking over law. There is law enforcement duties. The law enforcement primarily in Midway Township is handled by the sheriff's department. There was some confusion, and I've talked to the sheriff's attorney about this too, about dispatch of police officers and whether that gets confusing. And your chief can talk about this, there are circumstances where your police officers go into Midway Township and do law enforcement work. And that's in place. We don't have this contract right now. So that's in place right now. And those rules are pretty well laid out. What I'm trying to say in this footnote is that we're not changing those rules in any way by this contract, which goes over first responder services. So it's my position that the way things are working now remains in place, and there will be, and there have been circumstances where mutual aid to assist the sheriff's department. I'm not the police officer, but your chief can tell you about how the circumstances under which your police officers end up in Midway Township. I'm not trying to change any of that from this contract. I'm just trying to say that this contract doesn't change any of that. And I think, and I thought very carefully about trying to make these changes. We all know that Midway and Proctor, it can be a contentious relationship, and I get that. I've sat with Midway too, and so I'm not trying to stir that up. I'm just trying to, this is a really good agreement, I believe, for Midway Township. I hope it's a good agreement. I think that benefits both communities. I think it's something that you're going to see more of in the future. And so my intent was not to change it to handcuff your police officers, but to merely memorialize what I believe is Proctor's view of this agreement, that it's not adding anything, and to memorialize what I think Midway is a little concerned that they're agreeing to something beyond EMT services or first responder services under this agreement. And that's what I was trying to clarify with that.
Yeah, and I guess I would just respond or rebuttal that my opinion, if nothing is, why are we trying to fix something that isn't changing then? You're saying that you're not changing the way we operate, but we want to put language in here to change something. We're changing something that ain't broken, in my opinion. You know, a couple of years ago, we had an unfortunate car accident out on Uggstead Road. Uggstead, I believe, right? And I believe our PD took the helm on that investigation. Now, with this language under this contract, our PD responds to that car accident as a medical, and they've taken a sworn duty to protect and to serve. But with this language now, it's telling them that they should back off from that investigation now because they're only there for the medical aspect of it. And I don't agree with that at all. I think your residents deserve better than that, and I think our officers have a sworn duty to protect them when time calls.
So, I don't disagree. We're not, and that's where the first three words are, under this contract.
But again, if they respond to the car accident under this contract as a first responder, and it ends up being something more than that, you're asking them no. You're saying only go there as a first responder, not as a law enforcement officer.
And yeah, I get that. And so hypothetically, let's just say that they respond and to someone's been beat up and they respond there, and then it's a domestic situation. That they're not responding, they're responding as an EMT under this contract. there's a, so they're not coming to deal with that, but if there's an emergency situation or there's, I guess I would defer to your chief, but I don't think we're on this, they're responding as first responders, but if there's a crime that's being committed, they are police officers, and we understand that.
Attorney Hanka, in your legal opinion, I guess Attorney Johnson is saying that if they respond as first responders and it turns into a law enforcement thing, then they would still be able to do that. But with this language in the contract, doesn't it kind of tell them not to?
I agree. I think the language is unclear if that's what we're trying to get at. You know, I'm concerned that, well, especially with B on the footnote, Proctor Police will only be responding to Midway Township for first responder services. So if they're in a situation where they show up, they're in police gear, you know, it's a first responder medical type situation, or at least they thought it was, but it turns into something else. The officer, number one, is going to be in a tough spot because they can't act as a police officer even though the public is expecting them to because they're there in police gear. And number two, I mean, the public's going to expect it and the officer is going to be, I think, confused about what their role is at that time too. So
the fire department's going to expect that also.
Maybe we need to somehow massage that language if we're misunderstanding it, but the way I read that, they can't act as a police officer if they show up for a medical call.
I'll agree with you that it would certainly, the more confusing of that language is the B part, as I read it myself. What I was trying to do, and this is okay. It doesn't mean I didn't necessarily get there, but to try to limit under this contract, to not let this contract, again, I representing Midway Township, they're nervous the other way, that now Proctor Police is taking over. You know, there's nervousness. Everybody needs to develop a certain amount of confidence in the situation, and so we're trying to come up with language that meets all parties. And the other part we have in the mix here is the Sheriff's Department, which has their own nervousness, and I've talked to them. I was, you know, trying to meld that middle ground. I'm certainly fine with if we want to try to come up with some language that maybe is a little more clear. I don't have anything against that. We've been working on this for a little bit of time. Really, this is only the second draft of this contract. So if we want to work on it and try to come back with a little bit massaged language, that's certainly fine with me. And I'm happy to sit down with Matt and Tom Stanley and come up with something that, from the law enforcement side of things, works for all the parties here. That's fine. I think that's a good idea.
And I'll just, one final point, and then counsel, if you got anything to add. You know, as of right now, our taxpayers are providing Midway a service at a cost where our departments aren't even recuperating the expense of providing those services. So our taxpayers are paying above and beyond for these services that are provided to Midway. I feel, and like I said earlier, we want to be good neighbors, and we want to, you know, if you guys need a service, we'd love to be able to provide that, but it can't be at the expense of our taxpayers, and currently it is. So I'm not opposed to sitting down and looking at things, but I would also say I think council needs to make a determination on what we're going to do in the meantime. This could take a month, it could take 2 months, and all the while our taxpayers, our residents are paying for a service provided to Midway, which if council's fine with that, I get it. I don't like it. I think we need to address the cost of doing business and I'm not sure what those numbers are. I'm assuming the numbers that reflect this contract are a break-even point. But we're not even getting what this contract reads, correct?
Those numbers reflect the break-even point before the liability aspect came in. And
Right.
I'm guessing that the liability is going to add cost.
So I think council needs to make a determination on what we want to provide moving forward until we come up with an agreement that is satisfactory to all parties. But I don't think we can continue offering a service where we're not even breaking even on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense to some extent. One, again, the liability, just clear, the liability, everything the city of Proctor does, everything that your fire, your police, your public works, there is liability that is associated with all of that. This, in some ways, limits your liability because you're liable for your people, not for Midway's people. And Midway's, it clarifies a little bit. So again, I would check with your insurance provider and see what that, if or when this agreement is finally agreed to, the annual payment or the lump sum payment kind of is retroactive in many ways. So
No.
I don't know. Hopefully we can get this done fairly quickly, but you know, it is, you guys have stepped up, and the town of Midway does appreciate the services that you're providing. And you know, it's hard. I represent the Cloquet Area Fire District. It's hard. All of these services are hard to provide. It's hard to get volunteers. Police officers have a lot of things that they're juggling. This is appreciated, and we're going to get there and get it done, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I believe we can come to some sort of an agreement here. And again, we want to be the good neighbors that we are. You know, I thought the headbutting has gone away over the last 7 years I've been sitting here, I thought, and maybe even before then, but maybe it hasn't. But I thought those relationships were starting to mend a little bit. So I continue to look forward to being a good neighbor and helping where we can, right? But what does council think of any of it? No discussion?
I just, the liability stuff is good stuff, important stuff. I don't have any heartburn with that. It's kind of like a hold each other harmless type language that's in most contracts. What Attorney Johnson was trying to do was basically state they don't have any additional duties within their already existing contract in the Midway Township, period. That's it. Done. It doesn't need to say, once you say Proctor Police will only be responding, then you're contradicting that first statement. I think you just strike that. You know, it seems like we've been kicking this can. I think, A, we should advise our city administrator to just double check our math, because I do agree that we're trying to be good neighbors. We went into this not making a profit or making X amount. We're just trying to cover our direct costs. And that's what being a good neighbor is. So I, A, would like to make sure that we're within that toleration of, because I know it seems like every year insurance is going up one way or another. Workers' comp and all that, especially in the public sector, public service sector. And I just want to make sure that whatever language is agreed upon, it isn't counterproductive with what we've already got going on here. We've already established a model that obviously works within our community, and we've offered to extend that to Midway. And I think it's, having served on the Proctor Fire Department for 23 plus years, it was nice going into certain situations knowing that I had my partners, first responders, but also police, because things can change very quickly, and I don't have to worry going in there. And we're asking people to volunteer, and we're trying to pay them, and obviously Midway knows the struggles of trying to keep a team together for that. It gets expensive. So that's my 2 cents, Mr. Mayor. But I also think that we've been massaging this thing for long enough. So, you know, we can't just keep doing what we're doing either. And I know some things will be retroed back, this and that, and I do feel bad because I also agree with you. I thought that that was way before my time, and, you know, we've learned to work together and cohabitate, but obviously there's still something going on, which is sad for the Midway citizens that want us to go over there.
Right. Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion?
Well, Mayor, when I voted on this, what, a month ago now, was it?
Yep, I think 2
I didn't
meetings
know
ago.
there was a negotiation associated with this agreement we're trying to work on. So I'm a little frustrated that the service that we're trying to provide is a negotiation, especially for our police trying to do their job. And I understand, Mr. Johnson, their side of the story, but at the end of the day, we have to protect our residents, make sure that the costs do cover. As taxes go up for everyone, our residents do not need to pay for Midway's issues or any problems they have. So it's bare bones, and what business does work at cost. I don't know one. Either they go out of business or they make money, and I'm not looking to make money, but I'm also not looking to lose it. So that's my my thought process.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor Benson.
Thank you. Agree with everything that's been said. Trying to be good neighbors. When we voted on it, I thought that was the done deal. See this additional language to me is concerning, especially with Attorney Hancock, pointing out that the language could be confusing, unclear. Certainly, I don't want our first responders or police officers to hesitate because they don't know what they're getting into based on a contract that we don't understand.
Thank you, Counselor. So I guess council will need to decide how we want to proceed. I know we voted on a contract a month ago, roughly. Is that the contract we want to present to Midway? This is it? This is our services? Do we want to direct Administrator Rich and the two chiefs to sit down with Attorney Johnson and the town supervisors? I don't know who you sat down with, if it was all of them but sit down with town supervisors and try and get this language cleaned out with maybe some recommendations from Attorney Hanka. What's council's pleasure on direction here?
Either way, I want our attorney involved, whether he's physically there, but I want his professional review on it. That's why we have him.
Can I add something on this? Because all you guys done now is confuse us with what we're supposed to do and not do with all this. But if it is some kind of negotiation, shouldn't the negotiation team for the city be involved?
Good, one of them is on an excused absence right now, but
We have another one sitting there.
As Councilor Peterson, I didn't treat this as a negotiation. I treated it as we're answering a request. The request came across, would you be able and willing to cover first responder duties? The answer was yes. Here's the list that we have. Here's the price we have. Here's the annual amount we have. This is just to cover our cost. And now we're getting kind of tossed and turned over, changing our protocols of how we provide that service to our citizens here. And I'm not willing to change that. I'd rather just say, keep it friendly and say we tried. Maybe we just need to stick to serving our own citizens and let them figure it out. We tried to help. Maybe we're just not the best option to help them. That's a part of me is feeling that right now. I'm just kind of talking openly.
well,
But
and I would agree, Councilor DeWall. And
I'm not trying to put Attorney Johnson in the middle of this either, but that's just, it's like, we had this all worked out before this even started. We can still work through that from a fire standpoint. That's all seems to be okay. We never have any issues. If this is gonna present issues, maybe we just pull back.
And that's kind of where I'm at too, you know, we have a contract that was approved by council a month ago. I'm good with that contract. And if,
And
I'll make a motion to present the city of Midway our first responder contract as was a month ago. And, we'll honor the old rate of what they're currently paying up until the end of April,
Which year?
April of 2025.
I would,
If there's a second to that.
I'll second for discussion.
Counselor DeWall, second to that? Any discussion? Counselor DeWall?
In our first contract, did we put this for a couple of years, Administrator Rich, or did we just say, this is what we're gonna try to do in 26, and then we'll reassess it?
It was through the end of 2026,
So 2-year,
this year and
next year.
26.
I mean, we could change the terms if Midway's uncomfortable with it. Two things you could add is they could immediately sever the contract as soon as they're not comfortable with law enforcement presence in their community. And two, you could shorten the term. Right now it goes till the end of 2026. You could shorten it to the end of 2025. And at that time, Midway could reassess whether they want the service and can make the choice.
I was just thinking when we approved this originally, we were doing it with good intentions of trying to be neighborly, and I think we knew we were cutting it kind of close on our cost expenses, but hey, you know, we work well with other things, being neighbors, and I was okay through the end of the year, and maybe that would be enough time for them to kind of get used to it, you know.
So just do not even a 1-year contract, December 31st, 2025.
Yeah.
What's council's thought? I can,
So that would be basically what you said, except changing the duration.
yeah, and
Instead of
I'm,
through 2026, we'd go through December 31st, 2025. We get our insurance updates and rates, and then we know what we're going to be gearing towards. If they do like it, we know ahead of the next year what those expenses are going to look like, knowing that some of it might be.
I'll amend my motion if we can do that, if you want to. Who seconded it? Did you second that? Yeah, for discussion.
I did second.
So you want to amend your second?
I mean, I think it's good to discuss it, so.
Well, I can amend my motion that section 4.1 reflects that it remains in full force until December 31st, 2025.
So basically, it's your motion with the amendment of the term date.
Yep.
Not through December of 2026, but through December of 2025.
Any discussion? Councilor Benson?
Between now and the end of the year, will there be continued negotiations or?
Well, I guess I can't answer that because I don't know how Midway is going to respond to this contract. If they sign this contract, there should be, because we're down to what, 7 months left in the year? So if they agree to our services on here, then yeah, I think we should start negotiating maybe a new contract and what those terms and conditions would be.
Chief, help us with that coincide with, at least it would be on the same years of our already existing fire contract. Does that make sense?
I think that's better for both sides of the fence instead of negotiate clear whenever they said June or something, when it's.
I just remember in the previous meeting that the fire was coming up at the end of the year, so it's like, it makes sense to just, hey, we'll provide you coverage, what we already agreed to, as stated, except now, it's not gonna go through 2026, it's gonna go through 2025, with things being retroed and however else that worked, because we've been going to calls anyway.
I think for the fire side of things, to be first responder and the fire contracts on the same years, I think that makes it easier for certain individuals, myself, probably city administrator's time. I would guess that way easier that way. But I certainly don't want to be doing this with fire contract, which is going to happen in 2 months. And we're going to be working on this, but I think we should be up on the same schedule. That's just my 2 cents.
Are you okay with, I'm going to ask both chiefs, are you okay with what we're discussing right now to go through the end of the year? I'll go to,
The current agreement that we already sent?
correct.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And instead of going through 2026, cutting it off at 2025, and we'll try to get in June, July, August, start talking.
That's originally what I thought was gonna happen,
So, and I.
Okay.
yes.
I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Any other conversation, council?
Just one thing, that the chief, or the police and the way we respond is non-negotiable. So we respond to calls the way we respond to calls of Proctor. That's not a negotiation.
I would agree. That goes back to my original statement that changing the way we do business, just, I don't like it, so.
Do you want
Chief?
me to explain what would happen, like if we go out there?
Yeah, please.
That's-
Please.
So, when the officers, to Mr. Johnson's point, when I put out the memo to the officers, is that the officers are responding as a first responder. If let's just say, to his point, to get there and there's a domestic, and you realize that there's some type of crime that was committed or possibly committed there, that takes law enforcement, we would notify the sheriff's office immediately that, hey, we're on the scene of this, there's possibly a domestic assault situation that occurred, or whatever type of criminal activity that occurred. So that's what we would do. That's what, before we even talked about doing this agreement, I talked to Sheriff Ramsey. Did he have any issues with it? He goes, no. He goes, I explained to him what we're doing. That's kind of like the scenario I gave him. He goes, yep, just like what you guys do now. If you go out there and they ask us for mutual aid, yes, mutual aid is enacted, then we have the authority to go out there. We have a joint powers agreement with Hermantown where both PDs go back and forth all the time. And so it's kind of a different agreement. With mutual aid, once they sit and say, yes, Proctor officers go out there, now we're covered liability-wise, okay? If, like I say, going back to the medical side, they see something, we notify the sheriff's office, and the deputies would sit there and say, yeah, so we're responding, or they could say, if they're tied up, if they're up in, cotton or something like that, can you help us out to deal with it? Similar situation like what we do now. So nothing really changes. We're still asking for them, for their, that we're asking them, do you want us to go? Do you want us to sit there and help out with this or whatever? We're still getting their permission to do it.
But by doing it that way, I would believe that it's a better service to the Midway residents.
Yes.
So you're not sitting back waiting for SLC to show up and,
Yeah. So nothing's really changed. We're just going out there first as first responders. Then if it goes more into something else, we notify them. And we act like we should. And talking about the sheriff's office is that they brought up liability issues and stuff like that. Mostly they're talking about dispatching us. And the dispatchers and the emergency management director were talking about this. How would you guys like to be dispatched? One was over the radio, or two was over, I am responding, correct? Or a pager. So what we came up with dispatch was that the officers would be issued pagers, and if there's a medical or that goes out to Midway Township, that the officer's pager would go off, just like what the fire department has. So that'd be a little more of a
clear.
clear thing, because believe it or not, when they get a medical call, they might get different information than we do on the law enforcement side. So now we'll know exactly what they hear when the pager goes off. So that has been clarified and worked out with Mr. Stanley. one of the county attorneys there.
Okay.
Have any questions?
I mean, to me, it's, maybe I'm looking at too simplified, but it's, if there's a medical call, it's gonna come across the radio as Proctor First Responders. That's my cue. I'm going as a first responder, whether I'm a police officer, whether I'm a firefighter.
And that's what it's coming right now.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, so I mean, once again, we're saying, we have a system that works in our community. I don't know that we have to change all these things, because that way it's pretty clear. It's a Proctor First Responder call. It just so happens that our police department are first responders.
And that we, to be, tell Mr. Johnson, is to be licensed as a police officer in Minnesota, you have to have a VMR certification. We have been responding to medicals. We responded to medicals before the fire department did in this town. And then when the fire department joined also, it's like, yes, we all work together and we do this well, to maybe help out a little bit too. The officers don't want extra work doing law enforcement work. They'd rather have the sheriff's office do it, We're just there to try to do medical calls.
If I may, the only, I've been working on this thing a little bit, and I understand the dynamics of both sides. But I also deal with a lot of stuff, and we're basically, everybody, as far as I can tell, agrees with everything except the agreement. And I guess I would say, what I've heard here tonight is that we're pretty much in agreement on the agreement you guys approved a couple months ago. The liability stuff doesn't seem to be a big deal. You're going to check with your insurance provider. It's just that footnote that's caused heartburn. And let's just say that we took that footnote and we deleted the B part of it. Are we okay with that?
I guess I would defer to our two chiefs.
And our legal.
What's that?
Can you read me the part B? I don't have it.
Trying to pull it up here.
And you guys can think about this. You certainly can. I don't want to negotiate here. I'm just trying to get this thing done. And it's really, I don't live in Proctor, I don't live in Midway, but I know your public safety. I know this is good for everybody. This is a good thing.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing. I'm just trying to get it done. And I'm trying to juggle.
I would agree.
And
I would agree.
And
I
I really
appreciate
appreciate that.
Just so, I appreciate what you're doing, but
So it reads under this contract, A, Proctor Police will not be assuming any additional law enforcement duties in Midway Township, and B, Proctor Police will only be responding to Midway Township for first responder services.
So if you got rid of B, seems to be that seems to be a fair rendition of what we got here.
Mr. Hanka,
I'm putting him on the spot, he may need time to digest it.
It's just a few words. It's not that big of a deal.
No, I mean, that's definitely better. B was confusing to me.
just a side note, we want to go there. I mean, we
Yeah.
made the conscious decision of wanting to go there to help,
Absolutely.
and this got way too confusing. I'll be honest with you.
And I agree. This is good for both communities, and this is where the future's going. And we're trying to set up something that works for everybody. Sometimes it takes baby steps.
But districts are not far away.
Right. No, and like I said 100 times now, it's us offering a service, trying to be good neighbors, and we want to do that. I don't want that headbutting with Midway Township. I want us to be able to get, they're too close to not get along, right? I mean, so no, we appreciate when they come to us and ask for our services, and we like helping out and being able to provide those services, but we can't do it with the liability of putting our officers in a bad situation either, or any department head or department.
And Matt can think about it and get back to you. But I think that is a fair Midway
I'm definitely better with that. I want to think about it a little bit and talk to the chiefs.
So we could table it till the end,
Tell what?
till the end of our meeting, get through some other stuff? Could we do that technically?
I know Attorney Johnson's got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm late for, I got a closed meeting coming up. I mean, you guys could table this. We have, status quo is okay. If you want to think about it and just table it for a meeting, that's fine. And get your legal and your public safety to weigh in. And I think that would be a better way to do it than to just do something that may cause conflict. That would be my take on it.
Councilor Benson?
As we've gone through the discussions, and the more I keep looking at this, I'm thinking that let's just take the last quarter century or the last 2 decades that the Proctor police have kind of known what to do and how to do it. To have both 1 and 2, A and B, it just almost seems insulting. Like, we don't get it, we don't understand, and we have. And we've been practicing good first responders, good fire department practices, good law enforcement.
Well, and not to interrupt, but actually that is our motion on the floor. It was a first and a second already to just leave it the way it was. And we can say, hey, we want to know by the end of April. So I mean, that is still waiting for a vote.
It is. We're in discussion.
Which would take all of that out.
The only change was the
date.
The date.
Yep. 4.1, I believe it was. Any other discussion?
Good contract otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Hearing no other discussion, Attorney Hankin needs some time to digest that, and maybe get with Chief Gatis, Chief Elquist, and Administrator Rich on your thoughts, and they can be shared with council. But we do have a motion and second on the floor. All in favor of the motion and second, say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. So that's, but we will digest your recommendation, and if it's something that is livable with council and in our 2 departments, then we'll definitely reach out to you.
I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I took so much of your time
You're good.
tonight. It's always the little ones that take a lot of time. So have a good night.
Thank you. All right. That'll bring us to comments and suggestions from the citizens present. The public comment and suggestion period of this meeting is when the city council offers a time for everyone in attendance or watching from home to address the city council. Once we move on from the public comment and suggestion period of the meeting, members of the public will no longer be allowed to address the council unless the mayor acknowledges you. As a general rule, the council will listen to all comments but are not required to comment on or respond to any comments made by the speakers. If you'd like to address the city council during the public comment and suggestion period of the meeting, please come forward to the podium or dial 218-628-6268. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the meeting minutes. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the council will be prohibited from using obscene, profane, or threatening language or boisterous conduct that disrupts the meeting or the security of the public. Is there anyone at this time that is interested in participating in the public comment suggestion period of the meeting? If so, please come forward to the podium or dial 218-628-6268. We'll give that about a minute. move on. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Councilor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Peterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That will bring us to 6B, Resolution 15-25, retaining zoning authority. Councilor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope that the information provided is good enough to understand what's happening. There's at least 4 bills that are getting heard in this legislature addressing the zoning authority. And they have names like the Minnesota Starter Home Act, More Homes, White Places, Transforming Main Street, People Over Parking. And it's all about getting zoning where it's one size fits all for any size community. I think we have a good, studious planning and zoning. We adhere to the universal building codes. I don't understand why this is being considered to limit local decision making. I know it's coming from one side in the House, but there's also a Senate bill as well. And I got those numbers if you'd like to look at it. But I think it just makes good sense, and I would recommend supporting the resolution to retain local city zoning authority.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilor Benson. Is there a motion to approve 15-25?
I'll move resolution 15-25.
Councilor Duval made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any discussion?
Mayor? Also, I just wanted to point out that Representative Zeleznikar has reached out to me regarding this bill for our input from our local zoning, and I pretty much mirrored what Councilor Benson said, that it will severely limit our local control. It seems to me that the purpose of these bills are to encourage housing and to break some of the barriers down for housing. But what that does is it takes away our local control. And essentially I told her, if a bill like this were passed, we might as well just throw out our zoning code. And that's how much it ties our hands.
No, Madam Mayor, I reached out to Senator Hochschild as well. He did say in the Senate it is a bipartisan bill and it has bipartisan support. He was not in favor of this because Administrator Rich said it takes away local government. Cookie cutter thing on planning and zoning isn't a one size fits all type of thing. Some communities have parking issues such as ours, and if you eliminate the zoning on how many parking spots a business should have in their parking lot, that really handcuffs the city and local government. So I am opposed to this as well, and I will support resolution 15-25. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Oh, your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, probably missed all that, didn't you?
Picked up on that.
Right on. Right on. All right, hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you. 6C, annual holiday city advertising. So again, in your packet, I have a memo here asking City Council to consider approving a schedule for advertisements for holidays that would be automatically placed in our local paper. The recommendation is to approve a total number of ads to be placed yearly in the local newspaper, wishing our residents happy holidays and informing them of office closures or office hours during the holiday. All other ads pertaining to events or special occasions could be brought to tourism for approval to advertise those events. But I did list some holidays there that I do know City Hall is closed on. I may have missed one or two, I'm not quite sure on that. But just looking for a discussion or a motion. I'll start discussion, I guess. In our pre-agenda meeting, Administrator Rich did hit on that, it'd be nice to have guidance from council to just place these ads. get a lot of requests from not only the local newspaper, but from other entities that are requesting that we sponsor placing an ad in the paper or what have you. And it'd be nice if we had direction on what we're gonna do with these ads. I know also Councilor DeWall made mention of one or two of the holidays that I missed. Do you know, Administrator Rich, how many holidays City Hall is closed on? Is it 9? 9?
Just look at contracts.
Yeah.
I think it's 9,
Bonus.
but it could be 10. I'll make a motion to place an ad in the local newspaper for all the holidays on which City Hall is closed. If there's a second.
I'll second that.
Signed by Councilor Peterson. Any further discussion? Councilor DeWall?
Any further than that guideline would then go to tourism, and then tourism could recommend.
Yep, say, I know Councilor Benson brought up the county fair or Hoghead or those types of community events that are held in the city of Proctor but attract a lot of people to our city, could be paid for with tourism dollars because they are attracting people to the area. So I would like to see those come before tourism. And I don't know how often tourism meets, but is that something that we could kind of line out as they come in?
Yeah, we have a meeting with them next week and we can come up with an ad schedule that they would like to give me direction on.
Cool. So yes, any future things like that would,
I think one of the, if I might respect,
yeah.
I think one of the good examples is the MS-150, where you're getting 3,000 people, mostly from the cities, coming up here, spending the night.
Yep, that's a big event.
It's a nice way to let them know they're welcome.
Yep.
But tourism is appropriate, and we could do more with that.
And I think to Administrator Rich's point, at the tourism meeting next week, I believe it is, maybe you guys come up with a list just like this, where we're doing all the City Hall closure holidays. You guys could do the county fairs or the Hoghead festivals or the MS-150s, or, you know, kind of put a list together of what events we typically have every year. And, you know, the county fair obviously we'd like to do, and Hoghead we'd like to do. And so if you came up with a list like that, maybe and presented it at the tourism meeting.
I mean, I could even see having something, only just a signature, congratulating teams that go to state. Maybe not individuals, but certainly that gives the city statewide exposure. So yeah, there could be those sort of examples listing how funds should be spent, whether city or tourism.
Like it? Any other discussion?
I would like to ask the city attorney, is this something I could vote on?
I'm sorry, Counselor, what was the issue?
Since the holiday advertisements are going for a vote, no money is being associated with it yet. Can I vote on that? Being with the newspaper?
He gets that right.
That's bothering me.
Yeah, you're right. So appearance of a conflict, probably not. It's probably the safest way to handle it.
I
Right.
understand other things that are allowable under state statute, but
Right. Thank you for bringing it up.
That still hit me. Must be it's coming off his computer screen. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, well, we'll do a roll call vote because Councilor Benson is abstaining, so we'll just jump right into that. Councilor Peterson?
Yes.
Councilor DeWall?
Yes.
Mayor Ward is a yes, so motion passes 3-0 with Councilor Benson abstaining.
thank you.
All right, that'll bring us to 6D, Market Rate Study Team. During the webinar with Baker Tilly regarding the wage study report, market rate study report. It was discussed that they're assembling a team to go over some of the analytics and how they come up with some of their findings. And it was brought up during that webinar that council would like to see 1 or 2 counselors put on that team. So just looking for a discussion and hopefully some volunteers to sit on that market rate study team. So we'll welcome discussion.
I would like to see a minimum of 2, because I could foresee some scheduling difficulty for Administrator Rich, so that kind of guarantees at least 1 is going to be there. If 2 shows, great, but I'd like to see at least a minimum of 2 appointed.
Okay. You heard Councilor DeWall's recommendation. Do we have volunteers? Of course we do not. I don't mind sitting on it, but we'd like 1 more.
Depending on days and times.
And that is all TBD, I believe. There hasn't been anything scheduled, has there?
No, and I think that for the most part, they would be available online. They wouldn't be in-person meetings.
Yeah,
If
because
that
that one
makes a
lady was
difference.
from Tennessee or something, didn't she?
So that makes it a little more digestible.
I hear crickets.
Well, I'm guessing these meetings are during the day, and
Yes.
we're getting into my busy season, and I know yours too, Mayor, but I can't take time out of the day now that construction season's starting.
Right.
I could try.
Councilor Benson? Councilor DeWall?
I can if the council so desires.
It don't matter to me.
I know. I mean, I guess we could use one of us as a third, if somebody can't. I mean,
I'll be an alternate. I don't care.
I could be an alternate.
You could. Don't matter.
Councilor Benson, what's your thought?
I could be an alternative. No, I'm willing to do it again, depending on the day and the time. Having it virtual makes it a little bit easier for me.
So what I'm hearing is Mayor Ward, Councilor Benson, DeWalt can be an alternate.
Is that your motion, Councilor?
I guess that's my motion.
You heard Councilor DeWall's motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Peterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So that was Benson, Ward. Cool. That'll bring us to members' concerns. Councilor Peterson.
I don't have too much. I just want to wish a speedy recovery to Councilor Johnson. Sounded like his stuff went well, so continue to be in our thoughts.
Thank you. Councilor DeWall.
I'm not going to add anything tonight, just other than thank you to Administrator Rich for getting us the Blade stuff and other stuff I requested. Looks like we're going to see a department head schedule soon here. I saw that somewhere, maybe under communication.
Minutes.
And EMS and the other stuff. So I'm good.
Thank you. Councilor Benson.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I got a list. Councilor Johnson called me last night. Things are going good. You know, the guy's had some health issues and he's still concerned about what's going on here. So I thought that I gave him a little bit of heck over that, you know. You need to focus on yourself and you're calling about the city. So that was nice to hear from him. I went to pay him a visit today. Supposedly you need a password to get on his floor and I didn't have the password, so I tried calling him and he didn't answer. So, but no, it sounds like he's doing well. He's looking up and the last thing he said to me was, "I want to get the heck out of here." So typical Rory, right? But No, it's good to hear he's doing well. Local Board of Appeals and Equalization will be held on Tuesday, May 6th. I believe we have a council meeting the day before that, but just wanted to send a reminder. That's starting at 10 a.m. here at City Hall. A reminder, city brush pickup will begin May 19th. Residents need to get on the list, the pickup list by May 16th. You can get on that list by visiting our city website. One thing Administrator Rich and I have been hearing a little bit about, and I think it'd be good to give her direction here in the future, is the engine up by the golf course is needing some repairs, and she's came to kind of a stall mark on how to proceed with that. And we know we have the Trains and Planes Fund with some money sitting in there. So I think a future discussion on how council would like to see that getting fixed up. It's sinking in the ground right now, and you can't pick it up with a crane. It's way too heavy, and there's a lot of obstacles. So I think a little brainstorming session might be good here in the future to give Administrator some direction. And I just wanted to make mention to Andy Bruner and his liquor store team staff. They had another record year. I believe this is the 6th straight year. And some fun facts that Councilor Benson had in the paper. Out of 135 municipal liquor stores, they ranked 87th for gross sales. They were 119 out of 176 stores for net profit. They were 6 out of 13 in the Arrowhead region and 4 out of 10 for net profit. And they're 1 out of 16 stores that actually transfer money back into the city to take some of the pressure off our local property taxes. So congratulations to them for their hard work and their dedication. And it's nice to see the liquor stores making a profit where we don't need to have that special hearing. So nice job there. Chief Gatus.
I think we talked enough about public safety.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Attorney Henka.
Nothing for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Administrator Rich.
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. That being said, looking for a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $124,829.72. I'll make that motion if there's a second.
Second.
Second by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor DeWall made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you.